All right, so get ready, because today we're going deep, deep into Ars Astra.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, it's a book that's all about self-discovery and these, spiritual journeys that people take. But here's the twist.
Okay.
It uses dreams and symbolism and a whole lot of really esoteric teachings
I love that.
to guide the way.
Yeah,
And so to help us really unpack this all,
right.
we have excerpts straight from the book, plus some, commentary and interpretations.
Right, yeah. And you know what I find really fascinating about this book is how it just blends all these like ancient traditions, right? Like you've got alchemy, Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism with this really practical guidance for anyone who is on that spiritual path
Yeah,
of growth.
I love that.
It's like this mystical toolkit
Yeah, a mystical toolkit. I love that.
or self-transformation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And the book really emphasizes, the connection between our inner world,
Right.
which they call the microcosm,
Microcosm.
and the vast universe, the macrocosm,
Yeah.
and all of its spiritual laws.
Exactly. And it's kind of like, saying as above, so below.
Right, exactly.
That kind of a thing.
Okay, so let's talk about dreams.
Yeah.
So, this book sees dreams as portals
Right.
to self-knowledge, right? Not just random firings of neurons while we sleep.
Exactly. It's like recognizing that all those seemingly random images and symbols are actually like a language that your subconscious is using
Wow.
to communicate these like deeper truths.
So it's like a secret code that we need to crack.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the book goes really deep into dream interpretation, and it offers this framework for understanding the messages that are hidden within our dreams.
I'm intrigued. So tell me more about this framework.
Okay, well, the book focuses on these four, like, incredibly vivid dreams that are experienced by someone they call the neophyte, which basically means, like, a beginner on the spiritual path.
Okay, so this neophyte is like our guide through the dream world.
You could say that, yeah, in each of these dreams, they reveal different stages of the seeker's journey.
Okay.
So, for example, in one of the dreams, the neophyte confronts his deceased father, and it's all about death, transformation, and facing the past.
That's heavy stuff. My own dreams about family members always feel super intense. Like there's a lot of emotional baggage there.
Absolutely. Dreams about family often represent different aspects of ourselves, our own internal dynamics.
Yeah.
And the father figure in many traditions, he symbolizes authority, structure, maybe even our own inner critic. So confronting, a father in a dream, it could be about challenging those internal authorities, questioning the rules that we've kind of set for ourselves.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not necessarily about the literal father, but more about what he represents.
Exactly. It's about exploring those internal landscapes and understanding how they shape our beliefs and behaviors.
Okay, so what about the other dreams? What kind of symbolic terrain do they cover?
Well, there's one where the neophyte transforms into a wolf, and it's running through, like, a city at night.
Wow.
Chanting, running to the light.
Ooh, wolves, cities, chanting. That's a powerful image.
It is power.
It makes me think of those untamed parts of ourselves.
Ah.
The instincts we try to suppress,
You're picking up on the symbolism beautifully.
Oh, cool.
The wolf is often seen as this representation of our primal nature, our instincts, and that wisdom that can be found in embracing those aspects of ourselves.
Like those wild, intuitive parts of ourselves we need to integrate.
Precisely. And that running towards the light, that's a classic mystical motif. It represents the search for enlightenment, truth, a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And it suggests that by embracing our instincts, we can actually move closer to our spiritual goals.
That's fascinating. It flips the script on how we usually think about our animal instincts,
Yeah.
Like they're not something to be feared,
That's right.
but rather a source of power and wisdom.
Exactly. And, Ars Astra argues that by integrating those primal energies, we can achieve a greater sense of wholeness and balance.
Yeah, I'm already starting to see how these dreams can offer some serious insights into our own lives.
Yeah.
What about the third dream? What kind of symbolic territory does that one explore?
Okay, well, this one, it's like a scene from a spooky movie.
Okay.
A family moves into this haunted house.
Uh-huh.
But instead of, running away in terror, the father figure, he approaches the resident spirit with wisdom and compassion.
Okay, so haunted houses usually symbolize those dark,
right,
unexplored parts of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So what's the significance of the father figure's reaction there?
You're right on the mark. The haunted house,
Yeah.
it represents those shadowy aspects of our psyche
Yeah.
that we might fear or avoid.
Well,
But instead of reacting with fear, the father figure who represents, a more mature, integrated aspect of the self
right.
chooses understanding and compassion.
So it's like saying, don't be afraid of your shadows. Try to understand them instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this dream really highlights a key principle in a lot of mystical traditions. It's this idea of transmuting negative energy
Right.
into positive.
Yeah.
So instead of fighting our inner demons, we can try to understand their origins, their pain, and integrate them into this more whole and balanced self.
It's like making peace with those parts of ourselves we've been trying to hide or deny.
Precisely. And that integration is really, it's an essential part of the spiritual journey.
Okay, this is all starting to click for me.
Good.
So we've got death and rebirth. We've got integrating our primal instincts and facing our shadows with compassion. So, what about the fourth dream? Where does that fit into the neophyte's journey?
Okay. So in the fourth dream, the neophyte, he receives a very specific instruction.
Okay.
He's told to start a YouTube channel.
Wait, a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
That's a bit unexpected. What's the spiritual significance of that?
Well, he can call it one of two things: the Tree of Life or Yggdrasil.
Okay.
And both of those names are incredibly potent symbols in esoteric traditions.
Okay.
The Tree of Life, for example, it represents the interconnectedness of all things, the very blueprint of creation.
Okay.
And it's found in various mystical systems, including, the Kabbalah.
Okay, so for listeners who might not be familiar with what the Kabbalah is, could you give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, imagine a tree with all these different branches representing different aspects of reality. You've got the physical world, the emotional world, the spiritual world, all interconnected and flowing from a single source.
Okay.
So that's, a very simplified way of thinking about the Kabbalah's intricate system.
So the Tree of Life is like this map of the universe, and, by understanding it, we can understand ourselves and our place in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And then you have Yggdrasil, which is equally powerful.
Right.
And in Norse mythology, that's the world tree connecting all realms of existence, from the underworld to the heavens.
So both names point to this idea of interconnectedness and also maybe sharing that knowledge with others.
You got it.
Okay.
This dream suggests that after going through all these inner transformations represented by the previous dreams, the neophyte is now called to share their wisdom with the world, to connect with others on a spiritual level.
It's like taking all those inner discoveries and putting them into action, creating something that can benefit others.
Exactly. And that's a theme that runs throughout Ars Astra.
Yeah.
This idea that spiritual growth isn't just about personal enlightenment.
Right.
It's about sharing that light with the world.
I love that. Okay, so these four dreams offer a kind of roadmap for spiritual development. But I'm also curious about this concept of ordo ab chao that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Order arising from chaos.
Right.
How does Ars Astra connect that to our personal journeys?
That's where things get really interesting.
Right.
The book ties this idea to the biblical story of Babel.
Okay.
The one where, God creates this multitude of languages and it leads to confusion and the scattering of humanity.
Yeah, I remember that story. It always seemed like, a punishment for human ambition, like trying to build a tower to reach heaven.
That's the traditional interpretation, but Ars Astra offers a different perspective.
Okay.
It suggests that this confusion of languages, this apparent chaos, it wasn't a punishment, but rather a necessary catalyst for diversity and progress.
Hold on. So chaos can actually be a good thing.
Think about it. Without that initial disorder, would we have the incredible richness of cultures and languages we have today? Would humanity have spread across the globe and developed such a diverse array of knowledge and perspectives?
That's a mind-blowing reframe.
Yeah.
So instead of resisting chaos, we can learn to see it as a potential source of growth and creativity.
Exactly. And this principle applies to our personal lives as well.
Okay.
Those times when everything feels like it's falling apart, those moments of confusion, uncertainty, even heartbreak.
Right.
They can actually be the fertile ground from which our greatest breakthroughs emerge.
So it's like those, messy, chaotic experiences force us to re-examine our beliefs, our habits, and ultimately who we are.
And speaking of chaos leading to
Yeah.
order, your own dreams,
Yeah.
offer like a fascinating glimpse into how this principle plays out in your subconscious.
Okay.
You sent in 3 dreams that really stood out,
Okay.
each with its own unique set of symbols and messages.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear your take on the first one. Involved the lover of my father's wife and this like feeling of betrayal.
Intense.
It was super intense.
Intense, but also rich with symbolic meaning.
Okay.
Remember, dreams rarely deal in literal events.
Right.
It's about decoding the language of the subconscious.
So what's the symbolic significance of the lover of my father's wife?
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like a bit scandalous, to be honest.
Again, it's not about the literal figures, but what they represent.
Right.
We've already talked about how the father figure,
Yeah.
he can symbolize authority, structure, maybe even the inner critic.
Right.
And the lover in this context could represent a hidden desire, a part of you that feels betrayed or perhaps is betraying some aspect of yourself.
So it's more about internal conflict than like an external affair.
Precisely.
Well,
and the betrayal,
yeah.
that could point to a feeling of being let down, maybe by yourself, maybe by someone else, or even by like a system of beliefs you've held on to.
That makes sense. And I remember in the dream, like I wanted to tell my wife about it.
Oh, interesting.
Even though we were separated in the dream.
Okay.
What do you make of that?
That speaks to a desire for honesty and integration.
Okay.
Even in the midst of this perceived division, you're seeking wholeness, trying to bring all these different parts of yourself back into alignment.
Wow, that's powerful. So even in our dreams, we're striving for wholeness, for integration.
Absolutely. And your second dream,
Yeah.
the one with the haunted mansion and the fortune-telling gypsy,
Right.
it takes us even deeper into this process of confronting our shadows and seeking guidance.
Okay, that one was definitely spooky. But I also remember feeling drawn to the gypsy, even though she seemed like a bit intimidating at first.
That's a classic dynamic.
Okay.
The gypsy, in many mystical traditions, she represents the wise woman, holder of this hidden knowledge.
Okay.
And she often appears as a guide, even though she might challenge our comfort zones, push us to explore the unknown.
So she's like a spiritual mentor, even if she comes with a bit of an edge.
You could say that. And the haunted mansion,
Yeah.
as we've discussed, it symbolizes those unexplored areas of our psyche, the parts of ourselves we might fear or deny.
It's like she's saying, don't be afraid of the darkness. There's treasure to be found there.
Exactly. And do you remember that moment when she reads your palm and tells you that you belong to your finger?
Yeah. That part was weird. And then there was this red mark on my fingernail that felt significant.
The red mark, it could symbolize a wound,
Okay.
a past trauma, or even a karmic imprint that you're carrying with you.
Wow.
But the key message here is that you're not separate from these experiences, from your past, from those deeper, perhaps even unseen forces that have shaped you.
So it's not about being defined by the past, but acknowledging that it's a part of me.
Yes.
A part I need to integrate.
Yeah, exactly. And that integration is part of the spiritual journey, part of becoming whole.
Okay.
Now, your third dream, the one with the crowded market and the forgotten oil, it offers kind of a different perspective on this journey.
Yeah, that one felt less intense, but still very symbolic.
Crowded markets and dreams, they often represent the busyness of life, the distractions that can pull us away from our true purpose.
Right.
It's like being caught up in all the hustle and bustle, losing sight of what truly matters.
And the oil, I'm guessing, represents something more than just cooking oil.
You're sharp.
Okay.
Oil has been a symbol of spiritual nourishment for centuries.
Okay.
It's associated with anointing, with blessing, with the divine light that nourishes our souls.
So me offering the oil is like me trying to remind people of their own inner light.
Yeah.
To help them reconnect with what they've forgotten.
That's a beautiful interpretation.
Wow.
It speaks to a desire to share wisdom, to guide others towards a path of spiritual fulfillment, even amidst the chaos and distractions of everyday life.
Wow. This is incredible. I'm starting to see my dreams in a whole new light. They're not just random images, but messages from my subconscious.
Yeah.
Trying to guide me on my path.
That's the beauty of dream analysis.
Right.
It's like having this direct line to your inner wisdom.
Okay, before we move on, I have to ask about the name Frater Chroma.
Yes.
The book talks about the power of names, right?
Right.
So what's the significance of that particular name?
You were right. Names hold the special significance in many esoteric traditions. They're not just labels, they're vibrational frequencies that can connect us to certain energies,
Right.
or even reveal aspects of our spiritual identity.
So what kind of vibes does Frater Chroma give off?
Yeah.
What's its, hidden meaning?
Well, frater is Latin for brother.
Okay.
Suggesting a connection to, a brotherhood, a community of seekers on a similar path.
Okay.
And chroma is where things get really interesting.
It sounds musical, right?
You got a good ear.
Okay.
Chroma is connected to the concept of chromaticism in music, which refers to a musical scale that includes all 12 notes of the octave.
So it's like a full spectrum of possibilities.
Exactly. And that aligns perfectly with the themes we've been exploring: integration, wholeness, embracing all aspects of ourselves.
Wow, that's amazing. Frater Chroma. It's not just a name, it's like a whole spiritual identity.
And as you continue on your journey, it's worth reflecting on how this name resonates with you.
Yeah.
How it might guide you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and your purpose.
This is seriously blowing my mind, but before we get too carried away, there's one more thing we need to talk about from Ars Astra.
Okay.
This theory that the universe is a digital simulation.
Ah, yes. Ars Astra's exploration of the digital universe hypothesis.
Right.
It's a concept that, challenges our very understanding of reality. And one that ties in surprisingly well with the themes of consciousness and creation that we've been discussing.
Right, if the universe is a simulation,
yeah,
who's running it?
Right.
And what does that mean for free will?
Those are the big questions, aren't they?
Yeah.
But let's delve into Ars Astra's take on this, mind-bending idea and see what insights we can glean for our own understanding of, reality, consciousness, and the nature of being.
Okay, so we're back and ready to, tackle this whole digital universe concept from Ars Astra.
All right.
It's kind of like the Matrix.
Yeah.
But maybe, a bit more philosophical.
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities there.
Yeah.
But while the Matrix focuses on, the illusion of reality and that whole fight against the, controlling system, Ars Astra really dives into the deeper implications of a digitally created universe. What does it mean for our understanding of consciousness, free will, even spirituality?
Right.
That's what it's really exploring.
It's a pretty big mind shift, to think we might be living in a simulation.
Yeah.
Does the book offer any, evidence for this idea?
It points to a few interesting things.
Okay.
First, there's this uncanny effectiveness of mathematics in describing the universe.
Okay.
It's almost as if the universe is running on a set of these, precise codes.
Okay.
Much like a computer program.
That's pretty wild when you think about it. The universe is speaking in math. And we're just starting to understand the language.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there's quantum mechanics, which, throws a real wrench into our everyday understanding of reality.
Right.
It suggests that at the most fundamental level, reality isn't made up of these solid particles, but rather probabilities and possibilities.
Okay.
It's almost like the universe is constantly being computed, and each observation that we make, it causes a collapse into this specific outcome.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind. So, if we're living in a simulation, who created it and why?
Ars Astra doesn't give us any definitive answers, but it does offer some intriguing possibilities.
Okay.
It suggests that, the creators could be this super advanced civilization.
Right.
Maybe even beings from another dimension. As for the why, that's where things get really philosophical.
Okay, lay some philosophy on me.
Well, the book proposes that this simulation could be a kind of experiment. A way for these advanced beings to explore different possibilities, to study consciousness, or even to create new forms of life.
So you're like characters in some cosmic science project.
Or maybe players in a giant, incredibly complex video game.
I kind of like that analogy. It makes this whole simulation thing a little less intimidating.
The point is, it opens up this whole new way of looking at our place in the universe.
Right.
If we are living in a simulation, what we perceive as reality is just one layer of a much bigger and more complex system.
Okay, this brings up a big question for me.
Yeah.
What about free will?
Right.
If everything is predetermined by code, Do we really have any choices?
That's the million-dollar question, right? But Ars Astra actually suggests that free will might still exist within a simulated universe. It proposes that the code might allow for, like, randomness or variation, kind of like how a video game, you know? It can have multiple storylines depending on the player's choices.
So we're not just puppets on strings blindly following a script.
Not necessarily. We might have more agency than we realize, even within the parameters of the simulation.
It's like we can choose how to play the game, even if we didn't design it.
Exactly. And the book even goes so far as to suggest that becoming aware of the simulation, like we're doing right now, could be a way to expand our consciousness.
Wow.
And maybe even influence the code itself.
Okay, now my mind is really blown. So, like, what does this all mean for our understanding of, like, spirituality?
Right.
If we're living in a digital reality, does that make the idea of, like, a higher power irrelevant?
Not at all.
Okay.
Ars Astra proposes that, a digital universe actually strengthens the case for a higher intelligence, a cosmic programmer, if you will.
So God is a coder.
It's a thought-provoking metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of picturing God as this, supernatural being who intervenes in our lives from the outside, we might imagine God as the architect of the code, the one who set the parameters of the simulation and maybe even embedded certain spiritual laws into the very fabric of reality.
That's actually a really beautiful way to think about it. It's like saying spirituality isn't about escaping the digital world, but understanding its, like, deeper meaning, its divine code.
Exactly. And just like in a video game, there might be hidden levels, secret codes, Easter eggs waiting to be discovered.
It makes you really wonder, okay, so what's the takeaway for our listeners today? What should they be pondering after this deep dive into Ars Astra?
I think the biggest takeaway is that invitation to question our assumptions about reality.
Yeah.
Don't take anything for granted.
Right.
Explore those edges of perception, those moments when the code seems to, like, glitch.
Right.
Or when your dreams reveal something unexpected.
Like saying, stay curious.
Yeah.
Stay open.
Yeah.
And keep questioning the nature of reality itself.
Yeah, because who knows? Maybe we'll stumble upon some of those hidden codes and unlock a whole new level of understanding.
This has been an incredible journey.
Yes.
We've explored, dream symbolism.
We have.
The concept of Ordo Ab Chao.
Yeah.
And even the mind-blowing possibility of a digital universe. And we've connected all those ideas to your personal experiences, your dreams, your journey.
And remember, the journey of self-discovery is ongoing.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep dreaming.
Right.
Who knows what amazing truths you might uncover.
This has been awesome. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of Ars Astra.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep questioning everything.